Hello there. Oh my goodness. Look here. I got my own journal. It still feels so surreal. And it's just three things that are important to you, something that I'm grateful for, something that I'm proud of, something that I dream of, and something that I pray for. Simple but efficient. And then I as well have notebooks now. They're upside. And then they're so cute. I got sloth and butterfly. So you can check them out at lifewithfrancy.com/shop. Now, hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to Life with Francy podcast, a place where you will find all kinds of conversation like mental health, self-love, self-care, trauma, hobbies, and more. With this podcast, I want to create a place where we support one another in business and personal life. I hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get this show started. On today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Corrie Lowe, who helps people recognize and capitalize on their talents no matter their circumstances. As a business strategist, high performance coach, and professional keynote speaker, Corrie has been featured in major media outlets such as TEDx, Girl Boss, Business Insider, Thrive Global, and The Mighty. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to hear more about her. Now, let's welcome Corrie to the show. Tell us, what is life with you, Corrie?
My goodness, life with me is, you know, in my eyes, awesome. I worked really hard to get to where I am today, and it's been a really, really long journey. But yeah, life with me is full of freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment is the best way I can describe it.
Awesome. I love that. And it seems like it. I
Mhm.
love your intro already. So yeah, tell us, how does this mission started?
Sure. So my story started off with a very expensive piece of paper that said I could draw well. So I went to college for fine arts. So I basically graduated without any real job opportunities. So I was waiting tables. And at the time, this really pissed off my father, who was the second generation running my family's business at the time. So he said, you know what, Corrie, why don't you, come join the family business? You could do graphic design or something like that. And at least then you have a standard like 9 to 5, quote unquote, job, instead of waiting tables. And then you could figure out what you want to do from there. So I figured, okay, why not? Sign up to work for the family company, and I blink and it's 15 years later and I'm running it as their senior vice president. So never in a million years ever would have anticipated going from, painting all day to running. At the time, they were a Fortune 800. So a very large organization in the Northeastern United States. And I loved what I did. I love the people I work with, enjoyed, getting to work with my family. My family's business was unique in that they were in wholesale distribution. So we had the opportunity to work with small local retailers, as well as the large Fortune 200 brands that they all represented. So it was the best of both worlds. And I really had a lot of fun doing it. And that was until I started hitting what I refer to as my series of pivotal life moments. So it started off with me, experiencing a miscarriage. And then from the miscarriage, I, was pregnant and realized after my son was 5 months old that I was actually in an abusive marriage and I really needed to get out of it. And so I left when my son was 5 months old. And all at this time, I was homeless. I had to leave the home I was in. I had to move in with my parents that were over 2 hours from where I worked. And I was doing this crazy commute back and forth, to run the family business while also trying to manage my divorce and my son and everything else that was going on. And I started to get really overwhelmed, as most people do. It's a very, very common thing. 50% of marriages end in divorce. And here I was trying to make it all work. And I didn't really ever get to see my son. Most I ever got to see him was an hour in the evening. Otherwise, I was watching him grow up through my home security camera systems. I would check in, and watch him play with the au pair that I had to hire. So I was able to go out and continue to run this business. And I tried to get things like remote work flexible work arrangements, stuff like that, all before the pandemic. This was way before then, and wasn't successful because it wasn't widely adopted. And this was coming from my family's business. I was asking my dad, he's like, sorry, I can't do it because no one else does it. It's like, just doesn't work that way. So I didn't find the environment to be super inclusive, and that caused even more stress and anxiety and everything as I was moving on. But I kicked and I scratched, and I eventually saved enough to buy a house in a beautiful school district. I found, love again. I was with a great guy for well over a year. Our kids were best friends. We were getting married. Things were on the up and up. And then I was the one to discover he took his life by suicide. So again, pivotal life moment. Everything was starting over once again. And it was in that moment that I kind of realized that I had an opportunity to live my life the way I wanted to live it, as opposed to the way that I felt pressure that I had to live it based on everybody else's expectations of me. So I made some very drastic decisions in that time frame. I stepped down from the family business cold turkey. I had emergency savings saved up. I decided that's what I was going to start my own business on, to create that freedom, flexibility, fulfillment that I was talking about. And I went to work for myself. And because of my background in business, within a couple of weeks, I had landed my first paying clients. Within a couple of months, I had received a lot of those press mentions you mentioned before, as well as amassed an audience of 40,000 people online. And within a year, I was a TEDx speaker. And it all happens very, very quickly. And now my mission is to ensure that people have the tools and the resources they need to transform overwhelm into the action necessary to become confident leaders and entrepreneurs, so we could create more inclusive spaces, for, women and other underrepresented communities in the workforce. So that's how I ended up where I am today.
Oh my gosh, I love that. First of all, I just want to say I'm sorry. I don't want to skip through what you said, and my heart goes out and I send you a big hug.
Thank you.
And then, oh my gosh, you are freaking amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah, my podcast is all about tools and resources. So like, yeah, tell me more. How do you help your clients?
Sure. And this is a subject that I speak on often. So during, the time frame I'll refer to as the divorce, because for me, I had two major, like, big pivotal things. There was the divorce, and then there was the suicide loss. So what I learned going through the divorce was there were different ways that I could manage my overwhelm, which allowed me to continue functioning as this, corporate SVP and doing everything in record time without losing any ground, despite all the stress and the pressure I was under. And I ended up utilizing the same exact framework during the suicide loss, which then allowed me to launch my business, right? So I've tied all of my success directly to this I guess you could call it 5-pillar framework. That's very, very easy to follow. I'm happy to share it with your audience today. So the framework is called the overwhelm culprits. And basically, it's always one of 5 things that's going to cause overwhelm at any point in your life. And the thing that's beautiful with this is that it works whether it be a personal life situation, a career, or even business. You could do it with businesses and teams. So they all begin with a C, and they're really easy to remember. The first one is a lack of clarity, right? So clarity. If you're not clear on what it is you want or why you want it, it's going to be incredibly difficult to achieve it. And as a result, you're going to feel overwhelmed by not having it, right? So a lot of times clarity is the very first step. From there, the second one is a lack of confidence. If you're not confident that you can achieve what it is you want to do what you want to do, have what it is that you want to have, you're never going to have it. Right. So a lot of times we allow other people's, feedback on what we are and aren't capable of. We take it on as our own instead of, taking responsibility for our own confidence. And that's really one of the, that's the second step. The third one is your community. So the famous motivational speaker, Jim Rohn, famously once said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if the people that you are spending majority of your time with don't support what it is that you're going through, don't understand what it is that you want to do or are going through, or don't believe that it's possible to do it, you're never going to do it. So you're going to feel overwhelmed. So you got to change that circle. The fourth one is what I call conditioning, but conditioning is your physical and mental health. right? So lack of attention in this area is going to cause you to, obviously you can't pour from an empty cup. So you really need to be taking care of your, your mental health, your sleep, your nutrition, exercise, all of that. These are all things, was probably one of the number one things that I worked on during both of my pivotal life moments, was that, and saying no to everything else that related to that. And that was what I give, myself, what I give credit to my ability to be able to do what I did during that time frame, because I wasn't, I didn't have a lack of sleep and stuff like that. I was able to function at a high mental capacity. And the fifth one, last but not least, but super important, is a lack of consistency. So if you want to lead an extraordinary life, it requires extraordinary action. That's going to be action that's over and above whatever it is that you're doing today, because otherwise, let's get real, you would already have what it is that you want if the actions that you're taking today were going to suffice. So a lot of that is through consistency, and consistency can be as simple as having regular weekly check-ins with yourself, on your goals and your progress. It could be, monthly check-ins, quarterly. You have to be planning time to actually go through how you're progressing and holding yourself accountable, towards your actions, and creating systems and structures that allow for that consistency. And that's the 5 C's.
Wow, I love that. And I already do some, but that consistency is a bad one for me. And like accountability, holding myself accountable, it's not a good one. But no, I love it. I love it because yeah, your mental health comes before anything. Like right now I have, I think, 3 friends that I'm on their 911, and all I tell them is like, breathe,
Mhm.
come with me, just stop and breathe
Yeah.
and put your mental health first, because when you're in it, you don't see anything else but how bad it is. But you have to have a system, and I love that you give them the tools and resources, to help them get them through, because not a lot of people have support
Right.
in that
Mhm.
matter, and it feels so real when you're
Mhm.
in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I have 7 mental health diagnoses, so when it comes to depression, it's like I have to have a system for it. When it comes to anxiety, I recognize that the system that I have for anxiety is not the same as the one for depression. So
Mhm.
making the distance and the people that are different and things like that. But yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Do you have like a one-on-one program or a mastermind? How do you work
Mhm.
with your clients?
Sure. There's a few different ways I work with folks. And the easiest way I like to kind of frame it is I have, what would you call it? A self-study kind of programs. I have online courses, I have quizzes, that are free, to help you discover what your overwhelm culprit is. I've got those kind of resources. Then from there, I have Done With You, which Done With You would be like my coaching programs. I do one-on-one coaching, I do group. Um, and then I also have Done For You, which Done For You would be, for example, I do fractional CMO services. I used to be, an executive leader. So I help organizations, bring calm out of chaos with their teams, with their marketing, with their operations. That's something that I could do for you. Same thing, keynote speaking would be a Done
Oh,
For
wow.
You, where you could bring me in to speak to your audience, on the overwhelm culprits and how they can apply these tools and resources into their life, into their teams, their businesses, their careers. I offer workshops as well, in that framework. So yeah, those are the 3 different ways you can work with me.
I love that. I'm sorry. I'm a very dork and I love TEDx, anything TEDx. Can you tell us a little bit more on how that went about?
Sure. My TEDx, the best way I could describe it is it's one of those things that the universe decided that that's what I needed to do and kind of forced me into it. I'd love to, tell people that it was on my vision board forever, but truth was it wasn't. It was one of those scenarios when I first decided to start my business. I had a mentor that I signed up to work with, which, by the way, I highly recommend working with mentors,
Mhm.
coaches, whoever. So I had hired a mentor who was a coach, but she was also a speaker and an author. And within a couple of minutes of hearing my story, very similar to the one that I shared earlier, just not as refined at that point, she had told me up front, she's like, I work as a professional speaker. You need to apply for TEDx. Like, this is a story you should share. And I'm like, you're nuts. That's crazy. I've never spoken before. Like, no one would ever listen to me. And what ended up happening, and this is a good lesson to kind of look for signs from the universe or some power higher than we are as to what it is you should be doing, and have faith in that. Because when I started going out, and I'm very big on networking, I love communicating and connecting with people and stuff like that. That's one of my primary ways that I market. And in going out and doing different networking events, I was constantly getting asked questions. Oh, do you speak? Are you a professional speaker? You have a great, way of, connecting with people and this and that. And I would hire you for that. So what was funny about it was right around that same time I was getting those messages, I then started getting ads for a online course that was specific for women speakers, that started popping up in my Facebook feed. And finally I was like, you know what, uncle, I give up. I will sign up. I will do it. And I did that program within a weekend. It was a short, quick study kind of thing. And within 5-6 months of doing that program, I landed the TEDx, which was a surprise to me just as much as everyone. But it kind of goes to show you, though, that if you have a message that's important, that really resonates for people, and they are telling you, hey, this really resonates, you need to share this on a bigger stage, the universe will provide that stage for you.
I love that. And it's a lot similar from a lot of people that I have heard that have done TEDx.
Mhm.
It's pretty much like it falls on their lap, but it's not like that, but it's pretty much,
It doesn't,
you
it doesn't
putting it
fall on your
out
lap.
there,
Right. You have to
putting the
put it out there
message
because
out there and
you
do the
have to apply.
message. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You have to, yeah, you still have to apply. And my case is a little unique because a lot of speakers, when they apply, they have to apply to multiple ones, and they apply year after year, and then they eventually get it. I got the very first one I applied for, which is not normal at all. So I will definitely, say that. But I believe that one of the reasons that it led me to being able to get the first one that I applied for was because of all the education that I did leading up to it through the online courses and working with mentors and stuff like that to really refine my message and know what that core message was I was delivering. That allowed me, to be able to be seen and ultimately booked for TEDx.
I love it. Yeah. So is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about you?
My goodness. I share some light stuff. So I went from being a single mom of one, as I shared in the story, to being a married mom of 4 in a year,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
pretty insane. Yeah. So one part of the story that a lot of folks don't get to hear on podcasts and stuff like that, you generally hear it if you hear me keynote, is as a result of using the overwhelm culprits and continuing to take action, because I'm a big proponent of taking extraordinary action, no matter what your circumstances are. What ended up happening was 6 months after I lost my partner to suicide. It was New Year's, and I was in a really, really deep, dark place. I was like, this year sucked. This was the worst year of my life. I lost, this person I loved. I don't know, what else is out there for me. But I kind of decided in that moment that I knew I didn't want my son to grow up an only child. I knew that I wanted a partner. That's why it hurt so bad that he was gone. So I decided, you know what? It doesn't matter whether or not I'm ready for it. I'm going to put myself out there. So the very next day, it was New Year's Day, I signed up for an online dating app that I hadn't tried before and filled out what felt like 8 million questions. And they showed me one profile, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. And it was interesting because he shared a lot of similarities to the partner I lost. It was almost eerie. Same number of kids. They were from the same town. They worked across the street from me, really crazy. So I sent the guy a winky face, and he responds back to me and he goes, why doesn't your profile have any pictures? My profile was so new that the pictures weren't even approved yet. And so, I explained that to him, and he says, okay, well, here's my phone number. Why don't you text me your photos? And I'm thinking to myself, this guy must be nuts that he's given some person, he doesn't even know what she looks like. He doesn't know anything about her, gives her, his phone number. And I was like, that's crazy. So I send my photos to him. Long story short, the guy is now my husband. And what I didn't know at that time was he had had a very similar year to me, but had kept doing that work and taking the action and doing the things that I was talking about in the 5 C's. He did it on his own. So that by the time that my profile had hit him that day, he had thought, his first thought was, okay, I never reply to, profiles without photos, but what was working for me before hasn't been working. So let me try something different.
Wow.
So so that's what ended up happening. So we ended up getting engaged and we had a baby, within a very short time frame. So I went from being a single mom of one to a married mom of four between my two biological children. I have two bonus children. So I'm very busy.
I love that. How do you find the time to do all of it?
You really don't.
Mhm.
Is that being realistic? It's something I've really
Yeah.
struggled with the last, I'd say, 2 years, that I haven't done as much as I normally would do because I've been in full on mom mode, which has been fun. But the other thing I'm learning to do better too is that, we can't do it all ourselves
Yeah.
as moms. It takes, literally a village, whether that be a village that you outsource in different ways, whether it be,
Mhm.
I've always outsourced for things like babysitters and stuff like that. I'm trying to get better within my business, outsourcing for additional support, whether it be VAs, contractors, that kind of a thing. That's something I've struggled with over the years, but that's other ways that, you don't, if you don't have the time, you have to create it by outsourcing it to other people to help you with it.
I love talking about outsourcing because it's hard. It's hard for a woman to outsource. And I don't know why, because men, it's so easy. Men will find a guy at the gas station and
Mm,
be like, oh, you can help me with that? Oh, yeah, we'll see you next week and
yep.
we'll work together. And I'm like, how do you make it so easy? So, yeah, when I first started, just because I work a full-time job,
Mhm.
that is for two. Like I'm about to end the interview because I gotta run, change shirts, and head to work on my day off. So, anyways, like I do a lot, but like I do the virtual assistant. So I was gonna recommend, girl, if you want me to put you with my virtual assistant, she is freaking amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you
And
very much. Mhm.
to help out, because it's a season and sometimes the business comes first, sometimes family comes first.
Mhm.
You just have to have that balance of like, okay, well, this season I'm going to be more focused on this project, so I have to be more intentional with my time with the family. And
Mhm.
it's all about finding a little balance here and there, but yeah, something.
Exactly. Mhm.
When you say somebody said, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Yep. Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that resonates.
but thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can my listeners find you?
Sure. Easiest place to find me is my website. So it's www.corrielo.com, CORRIELO. And then you can find me on literally every social media platform. My handle is I am Corrie Lo.
I love that. And I forgot to give a shout out to Potmatch where this collaboration happened.
Yes. Thank you,
Potmatch is a
Podmatch.
yeah. Podmatch is a great place for podcast hosts and podcast guests to have a lot of tools and resources and make amazing collaborations like this one. So go check it out. Her links and my links will be all in the show notes. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on the podcast app, listening to and share with your friends if you like the content. Seems like you had something to say. Did you? No?
Nope.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, hope you have a blessed day. Bye bye.